is the news on top of the hour.
Live from our studio in Georgetown.
Kaieteur Radio, 99.1 FM.
Good afternoon to you. Welcome to your main newscast right here on Kaieteur Radio. We do apologize for the very notable late start of your supposed news at noon. We had a break in transmission at our Eccles Tower. Once again, we do apologize, but without further ado, let's head on to the top stories we're tracking. Patterson says $800 million for gas pipe alone is money for the boys. Previous estimates peg entire project at $200 million less. And ExxonMobil and others slapped with fresh lawsuit for systematically and intentionally deceiving New Yorkers. Meanwhile, April on track to become deadliest COVID-19 month, and suspect confesses to killing former priest with towel and knife and claims he was jealous. Co-accused was giving victim more attention. Do stay tuned to stay informed.
Guyana, please join me on the Glenn Lal Show, 99.1, 99.5, Kaieteur Radio, every Monday, Wednesday and Friday, 7:20 p.m. and a rebroadcast of the next day at 11 a.m. just in case you missed that program.
And now for the news in detail. The price tag of $800 million for a natural gas pipeline alone as part of the much vaunted gas to shore power project is simply another scheme by the PPPC. Well, at least this is according to Shadow Oil and Gas Minister David Patterson. Patterson on Wednesday addressed the matter since the ruling administration has now, according to him, changed its narrative from the cost of the project and the burden to our country to we will save $160 million per year with this project. He was keen to note that the current proposed pipeline costs of $800 million is some $200 million more than the conservative estimates that had been secured from the operator of the Stabroek Block, ExxonMobil Guyana. The shadow minister qualified his outlined positions by providing quote-unquote conservative figures for the project, which were secured prior to the PPPC administration taking office. And in other news yesterday, New York Mayor Bill de Blasio and Corporation Counsel James Johnson announced the filing of a lawsuit against ExxonMobil, Shell, British Petroleum, and industry lobbyist American Petroleum Institute for violating New York City's consumer protection law with false advertising and deceptive trade practices. The lawsuit, which was filed in the Supreme Court of the state of New York, calls out the defendants for systematically and intentionally deceiving New Yorkers. Specifically, the complaint lays out a case showing that the defendants' product promotions, which were positioned to convince consumers that the purchase and use of their products is beneficial in addressing climate change, are false and misleading because they fail to disclose the disastrous impacts associated with the use of those same fossil fuel products. And now let's tell you, with 3 new COVID-19 deaths reported by the Ministry of Health yesterday, Guyana's COVID-19 death toll for the month of April 2021 now stands at 44, which ties it with October 2020 as one of the deadliest months. Now, April is well on the way to becoming the leader of that category since the start of the pandemic last March. This is due to the fact that it is only April 23rd, and with one more week left in the month and a daily average of at least 2 deaths being recorded, it is bound to surpass October's death toll. The country has also seen a spike in daily COVID-19 infections. In other news, Orlando Richards, the 21-year-old suspect in the murder of former Anglican priest George Chakasang, who was found dead in his home, has reportedly confessed to detectives that he is guilty of being involved in the horrifying incident. The lifeless body of Chakasang, which bore multiple stab wounds, was found on December 21, 2020, sometime around 15 hours. Crime Chief Wendell Blanham confirmed that Richards confessed to the crime and admitted that he had fatally inflicted the injuries on the former priest. According to information, the suspect reported to detectives that he was jealous that the former priest was getting more attention than him from the female who was employed as a cleaner at the time. In February, 46-year-old Mohani Mohabir, the cleaner, was remanded to prison for Chakasang's murder. It is now 13 hours 5, coming up after the break. First female director of Guyana Police Force Band dies at age 55. Bartica Massacre crew committed Triumph's double murder. Meanwhile, murder of Charlestown man, cops hunt gunman reportedly seen running away from scene. And Police Finance Department multi-million-dollar fraud, new charges slapped on superintendents. Do stay tuned. Welcome back. Let us continue with the news. Superintendent Charmaine Stewart, the first woman in the history of the Guyana Police Force to lead its music band, died on Wednesday at age 55. According to the police force, its director of music and culture passed away in the early evening hours while receiving treatment at the Georgetown Public Hospital. Her son, Kevin Jones, said that Stewart was rushed there after suddenly complaining of a chest pain. Acting Commissioner of Police Nigel Hoppy related during a visit to her home yesterday that Stewart's sudden demise has left a void in the force that cannot be filled right away. In other news, police witnesses testifying in the trial of murder convict Mark Royden Williams, called Durand or Smalley, have so far tendered a caution statement in which he admitted being the lookout man for the notorious Bartica Massacre crew as they robbed and murdered two men at Triumph, East Coast Demerara. Williams, who was convicted and is serving time in prison for the 2008 Bartica Massacre, is facing yet another trial in the Georgetown High Court for the double murder. The case is being heard virtually at the High Court in Georgetown. The accused stands indicted before Justice Sandil Kissoon and its mixed 12-member jury for allegedly murdering 35-year-old Rajesh Singh and 25-year-old Fazil Hakim of Agriculture Road, Triumph, on December 16, 2007. And on that note, let's tell you that police are hunting for a gunman who was reportedly seen running away on Wednesday night, seconds after 25-year-old Odingo Anthony Yearwood was gunned down on Drysdale Street in Charlestown, Georgetown. Investigators have been told that the man on their radar is Lenroy Michael Ford, popularly known as Biggie. A wanted bulletin has since been issued for him by the Guyana Police Force. The force said that anyone with information that may lead to Ford's arrest is asked to contact police on telephone numbers 268-2298, that should be 268-2298 or 268-2222 or 226-7065-911 or the nearest police station. And moving on, as the probe continues into the misappropriation of millions of dollars at the Guyana Police Force's Finance Department, several superintendents were slapped with fraud charges. Some of those officers who were recently charged include Deputy Commander of Division 4B, Senior Superintendent Lauren Saul, Police Finance Officer Superintendent Marceline Washington, and former Deputy Finance Officer Deputy Superintendent Frank Jackman Wilberg, and others. The matters were called in the Georgetown High Courts before Chief Magistrate Ann McLennan. On the two occasions the matters were called, the court was informed that Saul and Washington are out of the jurisdiction. And on that note, we now head over to our COVID-19 update. According to Worldometer, the number of worldwide coronavirus cases has reached 147.7 million, with deaths at 3 million, and recoveries at 123.6 million. Locally, the Health Ministry yesterday reported 102 new infections, taking the nationwide case toll to 12,234. On Wednesday, the Health Ministry had also reported some 160 cases, which is among the highest number of cases ever recorded daily in Guyana. The ministry's dashboard also shows that 12 patients are in the COVID-19 ICU, another 16 in institutional quarantine, 66 in institutional isolation, and 1,324 in home isolation. Additionally, 113 recoveries were recorded yesterday, bringing the total number of recoveries to 10,555. And now we move on to the page 7 of today's Kaieteur News that is dedicated to being blunt. Yesterday, Guyana joined over 140 countries in celebrating Earth Day. Instead of it being an occasion for Guyana to be proud, it was an event that augured feelings of utter disgust at the way in which ExxonMobil is allowed to pollute our airspace daily with the release of over 250 toxic chemicals by burning the associated gas from the Liza Phase 1 project. This despicable track record is further compounded by the astonishing fact that we have no comprehensive insurance for the Liza Phase 1, 2, and Payara operations. Way to go, PPPC. Keep up the good work on being firm with ExxonMobil. And with that, we've come to the end of today's News at Noon. I am Kevin Smith. Thank you for listening.
Want value for your advertising dollar? Then place your ads on Kaieteur Radio's newscasts. Streamed live on 6 different mediums, reaching